Okay, so this is part 2. I'm finishing up the story on how I let this guy that was on the TV show America's Most Wanted into my place around 2008 or 2009. Um, so let me see, where did I leave off? Oh, um, my neighbor, he was, a roommate of my neighbor. And so after my son had told me that disturbing news about him, I guess I brushed it off because, like I said, he didn't seem like, he was that crazy. But so I guess he got tired of, all the neighbors bothering him about paying rent. So like a month or so passed by, and I had my back door open, and the screen was locked though. Like, cause you know how you have the metal screen door, and then you have your inside wood door. So my screen door was locked, but it was open, to let some fresh air in. And so I overheard a conversation with the lady and one of my neighbors. So I run to my back door, and of course I'm eavesdropping, because eavesdropping can, let you know, oh shoot, let me back up. So he helped my son, bring something into my house. And I didn't think much of it at the time, but after my son had told me that disturbing news about him, I didn't let him walk far inside my place, because I used to have a deep freezer, which was like 1 or 2 steps from my back door. And then my kitchen sink was right by my back door. So when he was helping my son bring in the thing that my son wanted, he set he set it down, and then he, stepped closer by my back door, like on his way to leave. And so, like, I watch people, and I watched his eyes, and his eyes looked over at my kitchen, dish strainer, where, of course, the knives and plates and everything were. And so as soon as I seen, his eyes look over there, because I had a big knife. I always keep a big knife, to cut my meats and everything and my food up. So I looked at him, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you, and start walking him out the back door. And so he left. But when I caught the conversation, I went and eavesdropped, and I actually think I seen the news, but I can't remember which came first. But the conversation that I caught was his aunt, and his aunt was looking for him. And she was telling the neighbor, she's like, oh, do you know where where Joseph went? Because all of us knew him as Joseph. And we were thinking that he was really like Cuban or from Cuba or somewhere. That's what he was telling us. And so, the neighbor was like, oh, you mean Joseph? And she's like, no, I mean Joseph. That man is a black man. And he was lying to you guys. And he ain't from no Cuba. He picked up, how to learn the Spanish language while he was doing, a 10-year bid in prison. So he had just got out. And she was like, oh, me and my brothers, as well as the U.S. Marshals, are looking for him. And I'm like, what? Not the U.S. Marshals. And so she was like, oh, my brothers want to catch him first. And so I kept listening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what happened? What went on? And so she was like, well, he went down to Whittier, and Whittier was south from South Central, because that's, where I lived. It was in South Central. So he went down to his grandmother's house, and he asked his grandmother if he could stay with her, and his grandmother was like, no, you can't stay here, you know. And she had some of, like, maybe 2 or 3 of his 5 to 7-year-old cousins there at the time. And so since she rejected him being able to stay with her, you know, that is when he started stabbing her up, and then in front of his younger cousins, and then he had set the apartment on fire. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, you know, everything that we was hearing while he was in our neighborhood was true. And so after I had left the neighborhood, because there was a lot going on, that's when I looked up online, and I'm like, whoa, like he fled to Mexico. And so that's where the U.S. Marshals captured him. But yeah, and so ever since then, I'm like, I don't let nobody inside, you know, in the house no more, because at that time, you know, I had only 2 of my children, and thank God, God was looking over me. But yeah, this is a true story, and y'all be careful out there. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, because I have more story times coming later.